We also have 3 invited speakers. These speakers will present different area of education and technology. We hope that we will learn a lot from these respect speakers. In addition, we received more than 150 abstract submissions, which address the main topic and mentioned earlier. This abstract will assessed by internal and external reviewers who have solid expertise in area of education and technology. There are 127 papers selected to be presented as a full papers during a 10 minutes online presentation. Based on the reviewer's evaluation and on the presentation, the author will be invited to submit extended version of their papers for a proceeding which that will publish by Atlantis Press. Last but not least, the conference will not come into a really without wholehearted support by many parties. Therefore, on behalf of the committee, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation to the Rector of Universitas PGRI Madiun, Dr. Supriwahyudi Utomo, the keynote speakers, invited speakers, paper presenters, and all co-hosts. Further, my sincere thanks to all the participants without from idea would not be presented. We wish you all an exciting conference and an unforgettable moment in the conference. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Tantri Mayasari, MPD, for the conference report. Distinguished guests, delegates, presenters, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to have the Vice Rector of Universitas PGRI Madiun, Dr. Jeffrey Handika, MPD, MSI, to deliver his speech. And afterward, we would like to request to officially open the 3rd International Conference on Education and Technology 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jeffrey Handika, MPD, MSI.
Thank you, Ma'am Fitra. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, distinguished all of keynote speaker, Dr. Park John Young from National Institute of Education, Singapore, Dr. Han Huang, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, Dr. Ahmed Rasman Abdul Latif, Putra Business School, Malaysia, and Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utamo for Universitas PGRI Madiun. Our invited speakers, Dr. Angelica Q. Cortez from Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, Philippines, Dr. Sudarmiani from UNIPMA, and Dr. Nizar Alam Hamdani from Institut Pendidikan Indonesia. Also our partner for this seminar, Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, Ilocosur Polytechnic State College, and Sentra Mindano University, Universitas PGRI Palembang, Universitas PGRI Sumatera Barat, Universitas PGRI Indah-Prasta, Universitas PGRI Argopuro, IKI PGRI Pontianak, STKIP PGRI Jombang, and Institut Pendidikan Indonesia. Dean, Head of Department, Lecturer, Guest, Presenter, and all of seminar participants, it's an honor to meet you today. Welcome to 3rd International Conference on Education and Technologies 2022. To begin with, let us thank Almighty God. It's because of His grace we all stay healthy. Next, on behalf of UNIPMA, I'm extending my heartfelt gratitude to all the President and Rector of our university partner, who has shown and will keep continuous collaboration by facilitating keynotes, invited speakers, and participating in this event. This international seminar is routine activity at University PGRI Madiun in collaboration with our partner. And UNIPMA and university partner is disseminate recent finding that the academic and industrial communities can utilize. Through this seminar, researchers from various disciplines present their findings based on the community STEMs, innovation, breakthrough with STEM, and digital humanities for SDGs. And scope of STEM-based education, digital literacy and education, applied science in education, digital education, curriculum and instruction, and social science education. Through this seminar, the research can expand research network, strengthen research topic, and also elaborate and disseminate their research result to the academic community. Participants also get new information related to research presented, and I hope this activity will continue and involve more researchers from various countries. I would like to thank all organizers of this seminar, Dr. Tantri and Dr. Fitra, also all of organizers. And finally, with gratitude, Third International Conference on Education and Technologies 2022 officially open. That's all. Thank you very much. Have a very good morning. Stay healthy. Billahi taufiq walhidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Jeffrey Handika, MPD, MSE. Well, distinguished guests, delegates, presenters, participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main agenda today, keynote speaker session. The session will be led by Dr. Sigit Ricahyono, MPD, as the moderator. He is one of the senior lecturers teaching in postgraduate program, Universitas PGRI Madiun. He is majoring linguistic. Without further ado, now please help me to welcome Dr. Sigit Ricahyono, MPD.
Thank you, Dr. Fitra Pinandita. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Sigit Ricahyono and would like to lead the process of today's delivery by the keynote speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me, again, appointed as the moderator. First of all, welcome to ICETECH 2022. This is the third International Conference on Education and Technology. Today's theme is Innovation Breakthroughs through STEM and Digital Humanities for SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, this theme is relevant to nowadays hallmark, nowadays trend, in which all countries across the world willingly or reluctantly have to adopt. That's the so-called knowledge-based economy. The knowledge-based economy, ladies and gentlemen, quoting from OECD, is today's trend in which the greater reliance for today is on the investment of knowledge and IT. As mentioned and as available on the flyers, ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 esteemed keynote speakers. First of all, we have Dr. Park John-Hyung from National Institute of Education, NTU, Singapore. That's first. Second, we have Dr. Ha Huang from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Third, we have Dr. Ahmed Rasman Abdul Latif from Putra Business School, Malaysia. And last of all, we will have Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo, Director of Universitas PGRI. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed keynote speakers, dignified invited speakers, Dr. Angelica Ordansa Cortez from NEUST, Dr. Sudarmiani from UNIPMA, Dr. Nisar Alam Hamdani from Institut Pendidikan Indonesia, paper presenters, and attendees everywhere across the world you can join this conference. And thank you. I would like to present some key information. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, the 4 keynote speakers each will be allotted 50 minutes, which include 35 minutes of delivery plus 15 minutes QA session for each. Then, ladies and gentlemen, 4 participants who are going to take part by asking questions, commenting, suggesting, and so on and so on. Please bear in your mind, first, when you take part, please be concise. Single question only and concise. Rule number 1. Rule number 2, you need to mention your name and affiliation. Raise your hand or write your question on chat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me share screen for the first keynote speaker. I would prefer to read in brief, ladies and gentlemen, rather than presenting the curriculum vitae on the screen. Dr. John Hyung Park, ladies and gentlemen, got his PhD from Seoul National University, South Korea. Science education, majoring in physics. Masters of Education in Elementary Science Education from the same university, Seoul National University of Education, Seoul, South Korea. Bachelor Education, ladies and gentlemen, Elementary Education, specialized in Science Education from the same university, Seoul National University of Education, Seoul, South Korea. Employment history, assistant professor up to now, Natural Sciences and Science Education, National Institute of Education, NTU, Singapore. Lecturer, Department of Science Education, Seoul National University of Education, Seoul, South Korea. Postdoctoral researcher, STEM Education Research Group, School of Education, Curtin University, Australia. Teacher, Seoul Jamsil Elementary School, Seoul, South Korea. Research interest, physics education, science education, multi-modality representation, intuition, collaborative learning. Publication, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jo Hyun Park has a lot of publications and internationally reputable journal, but I would like to mention some. They features and representational strategies in instructional videos of primary science class. Another, an analysis of student-generated drawings in terms of types of scientific explanation and levels of representation. These are some articles. Ladies and gentlemen, to put in brief, Dr. John Hyun Park has a solid experience and sound academia. Dr. John Hyun Park, I would like you to take the floor for 35 minutes, which is followed by 15 minutes UA session. Dr. John Hyun Park, please take.
Thank you very much, Dr. CJ, introducing me in detail. Very good morning to you. I'm Junior Park from National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Please wait, I'll share my screen. Can you my screen now?
Yeah, doctor. Just proceed. It's okay for us all.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very honored to present this keynote at the third International Conference of Education and Technology, entitled Meaning Making in Science Classroom, Orchestrating Multiple Modes of Representation. Now, let me start my presentation. What will happen to this balloon inside if we pump the air out from this container? So this container, you can see, is a decompressible container. Using a pump valve, we can easily pump the air out from this inside. So could you predict what will happen to this balloon? Number one, it will be expanded. Number two, no changes. Number three, it will be contracted. Let's observe this phenomenon. Yes, the answer is number one. It has been expanded. Why? What mechanism of this phenomenon? So you may refer to these captured photos below in generating an explanation. I'm guessing you are visualizing the process mentally in your mind. It may imply that you use not only words but also images to make meaning related to this phenomenon. Likewise, you are hearing my voice and can see this slide. This is an example of the use of multiple representation. This use of multiple representation can be supported theoretically by two well-established research areas. First one is cognitive theory of multimedia learning, and second one is multiple representations. Let me introduce cognitive theory of multimedia learning first. This theory is about human information processing, involves two different channels. They are verbal auditory channel and visual pictorial channel that are related to the structure of the human mind. A dual channel in processing information implies a way of increasing capacity of receiving information related to human working memory. Since the channel have a particular amount of working memory capacity at a time, the use of both channels at the same time is a more significant amount of information processing than that of a single channel. Hence, if the information is given through pictures and words, it is more likely to be efficient and process information than giving only pictures or words. The underlying assumption of this theory is that pictures and words convey qualitatively different information. For example, when you're trying to explain the locational relationship between Singapore and Indonesia or East Java, you may already visualize this relationship. However, if you can use this imaging, it would be more easier to communicate because this map provides visual information, including distance, locations, directions, while they are hard to be conveyed by my verbal language. This is how different information can be delivered through different channels. To convey more meaningful information effectively, this theory provides two basic principles in organizing multiple representation, such as pictures, words, mathematical equations, and etc. These two are the spatial contiguity principle and temporal contiguity principle. First, spatial contiguity principle is that learners will have better learn when providing pictures and words in neighboring than providing them apart. It implies that educators may need to consider integrating multiple representation to providing them contiguously. The temporal contiguity principle is that learner can do better learn when providing pictures than words simultaneously than successively. In previous map example, we would have a better understanding when we are hearing about this locational relationship between Indonesia and Singapore, and seeing the map at the same time, then doing them in sequential order. This is about temporal contiguity principle. As these two contiguity principles can facilitate student learning, educators may need to consider organizing and providing various resources in actual science classroom. There is another strong necessity for the use of multiple representation in science educational setting, which is related to a multi-layered representation that involve multimodality and multiple levels of representation. Science contents cannot be communicated through only talk and word. These are verbal mode because it inherently involved multiple modes of representation, including these kinds of visual mode to convey their meaning. This is about the representational nature of science content. For example, when describing ideal gas law involving changes in condition, we may need not only words, but also visual diagram or a formula, which is mathematical representation. These different modes of representation have different affordances. For example, this verbal mode affords typological meaning, which involve the categorization of words, such as increase or decrease, and solid, liquid, and gases. These kinds of things is about categorization. It only can be done through a verbal mode. On the other hand, this visual mode affords topological meaning, which is about spatial information, such as location of these particles and arrangement of those particles, or degree of some information, such as speed, size, direction, and length, and so on. This is a multimodal nature of science. This is another layer, multiple levels of representation. Science inquires the nature world, which involve more than at least two levels, macro and micro. A macro level is about what we can observe, and micro level is what we cannot see. by the naked eye without any ads. The important issue of this distinction is making appropriate links across these two different levels. To generate a coherent explanation throughout these two different levels, we need to integrate these two ideas interconnectively. For example, these magnetic lines drawn by microfaraday is not a merely copy of iron filings pattern, but the integrative diagram considering the magnetism which cannot be seen and iron filings which he could observe. So microfaraday can produce this diagram considering this connection between macro and micro level together. Let's go back to the phenomenon I provided you at the beginning. To construct an explanation of this phenomenon, we can draw this diagram using these particles, which can show why the balloon inside is inflated like this. Then this is before and this is after. We can see less particles inside of this container and the same amount of particles inside of this balloon. This is indeed not only verbal explanation, but also visual explanation. And in addition, it needs the multiple levels of representation, macro and micro together. Macro is you can observe the balloon inflating, while the particles are on micro levels. It means that considering this multimodal nature of science and its multiple levels, it is necessary to involve a visual mode of representation more actively. For this explanation, you can see when after pumping out the decrease of this particles density, and then it means that the decrease of the number of collision outside, and it caused the decrease of air pressure outside of balloon, and then relatively the pressure inside of this air balloon is still the same, so it's larger than outside, and so this balloon has been inflated. However, as we know, written explanation or verbal language is the most dominant way as an assessment tool or learning approach, which has limitations to illustrate these kinds of visual information and so on. So, therefore, educators may involve multimodal student-generated representation intensively and intentionally. As we explore, theoretically, we have sufficient reason to involve the use of representation by students. So with this in mind, today I would like to introduce Draw to Learn approach, which can be a powerful approach to learn science with several significant advantages. As you can see, this diagram, it cannot fully represent the conceptual meaning. It has limitation. Through a visual diagram, we can depict the phenomenon visually. In addition, we can allow to construct a causal explanation. And in some cases, we can draw a plan to solve some problem. For benefit of the use of scientific diagram, it can prompt orchestrating multiple modes of representation in representing scientific ideas. There is some need of connection on this visual objective of this diagram. To explain this relationship among these visual objectives, scientific reasoning can be also concretized and elaborated. If we use our gesture to explain this phenomenon, this another mode of representation can be added, and it also promotes to elaborate scientific reasoning as well, because gesture function to indicate something and also show some visual information as well instantly. Similar to science participation that involves explaining their ideas clearly through visual representation, students can also be given opportunity to communicate with other teachers and peers based on this clarifying their ideas. Group drawing can even actively promote the benefit of draw to learn strategy. In particular, a group drawing activity allows the integration of multiple representation and providing opportunity for joint reasoning. Students can discuss while they're drawing their idea verbally and explicitly draw their idea visually on a shared and public space, such as using paper on screen. This shared and recorded medium plays a crucial role to facilitate student constructive dialogue and their reasoning. Although many studies have reported this strength, which is benefit of group drawing, collaborative drawing, there is a lack of understanding the mechanism of how students develop their ideas during collaborative drawings, especially their discursive dialogue shaped by the coordination between their verbal talk and visual drawing at a moment-by-moment level of interaction has been well investigated. So, given this background, this study I'm trying to explain to you to aim to examine the interaction process between this verbal and visual mode of representation in collaborative drawing, focusing on their mental progression of their ideas. So first research question is about the interaction pattern between visual and verbal modes of representation, while second one is their complementary role in their idea progression. This study based on synthesis of research area, classroom discourse, and multimodality. Classroom discourse provides some theoretical lens to examine verbal interaction. One important finding of this research is that the revelation of some pattern, such as IRE or IRF pattern. IRE pattern is teacher initiate a question and student respond to the teacher's question, and then teacher again evaluate student response. And through this IRE pattern, classroom discourse can developing student ideas. On the other hand, multimodality I introduced in the previous slide provide to examine interaction between verbal and visual mode of representation in group drawing activity. To figure out this interaction pattern of collaborative drawing, I analyze student activity at moment-by-moment level, considering this theoretical lens. So for this study, 15 students who are 10 to 12 years old participated in this project. and topic was sound transmission. And at the teacher's instruction, they're following up a verbal discussion and letting them to draw a diagram on one worksheet. As I mentioned, we analyzed their collaborative multimodal discourse at moment-by-moment level or turn-by-turn manner. This is a microgenetic analysis, and we track a student meaning-making process following the chain of meaning in their discourse. I will introduce this concept intertextuality, which came from linguistics later on. So we found and documented a recurring pattern, plan, draw, evaluate pattern in how interaction between verbal and visual mode occurred during collaborative drawing. This PDE pattern consists of a tried move of alternate between visual and verbal mode of representation. Plan, move. The plan move is about what to represent, what to draw. And draw move is students drew their planned object visually. Finally, the last move, other members who did not draw the object can evaluate the drawn diagram. I will explain this pattern with a simple example. The main guide question for this task was sound transmission between these two tuning forks. At the beginning, students drew the first tuning fork from the left-hand side of them, and the example was about their drawing of the second tuning fork on the right-hand side. This framework involved each student column vertically S1, S2, S3 to track their meaning making, to their utterance, including visual information. On the right-hand side of this table, indicate there are some mode, and then this column is to indicate the pattern PDE. Plan, the first move of this plan PDE pattern began with this mention with S1 suggestion, which is draw the second tuning fork. And then S3 and S2 agree with to draw the second tuning fork. So S1 then request that to S3 to draw the tuning fork together. These four turns were classified as one plan move. The first move focuses on what to draw, mostly occurred in the verbal mode. Fulfill various purposes such as suggesting, agreeing, and requiring. The draw move began with this turn. After hearing S1's suggestion, S3 drew the second tuning fork for the right-hand side. This move, visual representation, are used to be generated to show the object or concept planned in the previous move. Since students tend to take some time to finish their drawing, this draw move could continue for many turns. When someone in the group began talking, in this case, the evaluate move happened concurrently, while S3 students are drawing this diagram. In this evaluate move, they started making comment in those terms. That's good enough, yeah, like this. This move can take place in many ways, such as agreeing, rejecting, informing, and so on. The reason why they drew this tuning fork in the first at the beginning. Instead, they will be able to add invisible concept after drawing a macro level, which they can observe. And then they can develop their idea sequentially. Besides the simple PD pattern described earlier, there are variations of PD pattern that emerge in our data, notably interaction chain and overlapping between PD pattern. Interaction chain were cases where students drew the same object or concept in more than 3 moves. For example, plan, draw, evaluate, draw, count, evaluate, like this. This is very spontaneous process for students to diagram. Overlapping PD pattern were cases where students took more than 2 tracks at the same time in their collaborative drawing. For example, as you can see here, one student is drawing a mallet, which is a tool to strike 124, while other student wants to shadow the motion of this mallet. There are 2 tracks at the same time. So the alternation between visual and verbal mode in PD pattern, students can progress in elaboration of their ideas. This is a complementary relationship between the distinctive roles of the visual and verbal mode in alternating with each other. In every alternation, student idea gradually progress forward by generating relevant ideas and concretizing, visualizing, and clarifying them. This incremental progression of ideas help students elaborate their drawing by explaining them. Let me show an example. This example shows that the verbal and visual mode play different roles in facilitating incremental progress of ideas. In these 2 terms, S3 suggests a drawing dot, this drawing dot, to represent the air particles. In this term, it did not suggest the exact size of the air particle in verbal mode. The size of this particle was only visualized when S3 drew this tiny dot. After S3's drawing, S2 realized that these dots were not his plan and consequently rejected S3's drawing. And then S2 then concretized the size of the air particles by drawing bigger circles without saying anything about the size. Finally, S3 suggested drawing the solid particles of the tuning fork and drew a packed circle to represent them. As you can see, this series of their visual representation in this zoom-in drawing here, tiny dot, bigger circle, and packed circle, there are a progression of product that built on continuous chain of ideas of representing the air particles in this complementary relationship in the alternation between visual and verbal mode. In this developmental process, there are many alternations between visual and verbal mode of representation. And let me summarize this pattern using intertextuality concept, which came from linguistics. It means that every single external representation should be understood in terms of a chain of connected meaning, which means that one text rely on the other text. So at the beginning, the verbal planning at the first stage is still vague when they plan what to draw is unclear for everyone. But in the second move, the idea plan in the first move is visualized and concretized. At this stage, the image of this idea eventually constructed and visually and shared to every group member. The shown idea involves additional visual information compared to the previous one. This is a manifestation of its specificity and became clearer because group members now they shared ideas through both verbal and visual mode together. As the last move, the shown drawing is evaluated by group members, so thus allowing the idea to be clarified and sharpened among members whether it is accepted or not. From this perspective, drawn diagram is not merely final product, but the established product in the history of using talk, written explanation of labels and gestures across multiple modes of representation. And in addition, the ideas also progress not only within this small PDE pattern, but also across PDE pattern. So accumulating this PDE pattern produce a kind of constructed explanation. As illustrated in the zoom-in drawings, air particles, and tuning fork we saw, this accumulation of PD pattern can be progression of ideas. So this study identified a recurring pattern in the coordination between verbal and visual mode along the progression of idea planned, drawn, and evaluated by the student in a group setting. This PD pattern provides a basic social structure, not only for coordinating between verbal and visual mode of representation used by them, but also the collaboration and progression of collective ideas among the group members. Student collaborative work was negotiated in ways that draw on both verbal and visual mode, mutual roles, affordances, and complementary relationships. It also revealed the process of group negotiation that involves drawing as a collective objective. Its insights add on new contribution to previous research, reveal various interaction patterns such as notably IRE or IRF, and so on. This is the last slide for presentation. When students construct their scientific idea or explanation through multimodal discourse, they may make meaning across various modes of representation, including drawn diagram, written explanation, talks and gesture, and even manipulating or observe some materials. Considering the concept of intertextuality, drawing together activity can promote meaning making more meaningfully and development of idea progression and alternation between visual and verbal mode of representation, which can be said a multimodal student-generated representational activity. As illustrated earlier, the two well-established research area, which is cognitive theory of multimedia learning and multimodality, these theories can support why we need to focusing on multimodal representation. So science teachers, therefore, may need to support their students sufficiently in terms of providing appropriate multimodal resources and giving opportunity to generate their scientific understanding and using multiple mode of representation toward meaning making in science classroom within orchestrating multiple mode of representation. Here are key references, and thank you very much for your attention. Please let me know if you have any question or comment. I welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John Hume Arch. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for you to get involved. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, I would like to let you know, please raise hand or write your question on chat room. Then if you raise your hand, please mention your name and affiliation. And last, I would like to remind you, if you have questions, please single question only. No nested questions. And then please be concise. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question, please raise your hand or write your question on the chat. Thank you. Now it's time for you to participate, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I have Miss Akita Risma raising hand. Mrs. Akita Risma, please. It's time for you to hear what you are going to get involved. Questions, suggestions, comment, or criticism. That's okay. Now, please, speak up.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sigit. Actually, the presentation is very interesting. I guess you have many questions also, Dr. Sigit, because it is related to multimodality and because Dr. Sigit and I, Dr. Park, we come from linguistic area and we are very close to multimodality. So I have several questions here. The first one would be, I was just wondering whether how many data that you have, because you count by using the interaction, right? So the total data would be like, I don't know whether how many words or could you like give the details? And also the second one would be, is there, because your data is taken from a gifted science classroom, so is it similar to regular science classroom, or is there any particular details that differentiate between regular classroom? Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very important question related to this study. First of all, the data I recorded 3 lessons, and each lesson is 120 minutes long and quite longer class. And then there are 5 groups of each lesson, and we recorded each group's activity for the 3 lessons. But we didn't count the number of words we did transcribe. But yeah, the purpose of this research was actually to identify some interaction pattern of their discourse. So I hope that I answered your first question. And then second one, actually, I also wondering how this PD pattern can reveal in general science classroom, which is majority population of students. So actually, yeah, I can see some potential implication of it, because this data set was collected in Australia, and now from last year, I'm trying to observe a Singaporean science classroom within this same framework. So it has not been published yet, but I can see this pattern in general science classroom. But This is about collaborative drawing, and the condition of this pattern should be satisfied, which means that their activities show collaboration. If one student dominant in their activity, then its collaboration cannot be revealed. So if 2 or 3 students join together and try to contribute their idea and develop their scientific ideas, then I can see this pattern in their activities, even in general science classroom. Thank you.
Okay. And how about maybe I still like curious with is there any like relation with the age, because drawing is always interesting for certain age of children. So do you think that it is also related to the participants?
Yes, I think so. As I know, a drawing diagram activity can be conducted from K to 12 or for undergraduate. And I have read some papers from K to undergraduate. So I think for participants, they have some concern when they participated in this project, because they said they are not good at drawing. Many indicate that they think drawing diagram is for artistic, but this is scientific diagram and has different purpose. So if you can convey your idea clearly through your diagram, then it would be meaningful. If so participants can understand this intention, there is less obstacle to join that activities. I hope I is clarified.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Park. Thank you, Mr. Sigit. I guess I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, multimodality. Much interesting. Rakita and me. Okay. I think there's a question. So, ladies and gentlemen, still we have more than enough time to participate. I am waiting for your participation, getting involved. If you have questions, comment, or suggestion or whatsoever, please raise hand, simply raise hand, or just write your questions, your comments, or suggestion on the chat room. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting for you to take part.
And there is a request from the chat box, and I will share the research that you can find this paper. Thank you.
Okay, this is a question, simple question. Is your article available for full access?
Yes, right. Yeah, it can be accessible. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, the article is available for full access. This is the expectation. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, any more questions? Some, this may be too much scientific. Some others, be not. But basically talking about multimodality is very interesting, because at least nowadays the trend is moving from monomodal, that's verbal, towards multimodal, integrating verbal, visual, sometimes audio. Will be great. Wakita concerns and my concern and your concern will be different. Your concern, doctor, is on learning how science students will be benefited in their learning through multimodality, while for me, maybe with Wakita, it's about how meaning making will be beneficial for people in terms of communication. Okay, let me have a look if there are any questions. I don't know why not so many people are interested in this topic of discussion. Yes, I think personally very much Interesting. Yeni Witianeng raise hand. Bu Yeni, please ask a question.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the presentation, Mr. John Hyung. It's very interesting. I would like to introduce myself first. I am Yeni Indriati Widyaningsi. I am from Institut Pendidikan Indonesia, Garut. I would like to ask you about can we apply the PDI method to another lesson? For example, for teaching a language. I mean, not only for science. Can we? That's my question. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Simple question. Can it be applied to language, not in science? Dr. John, your part, please. Simple question.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Yeni. I think this is a very good question because I'm not a linguistic educator, and I don't know what exactly linguistic teach for students. But it assumes that if the topic has concrete visual information, it seems it's adaptable. But if it is not, I think there is some limitation. But we can think that if we let them design something together in a paper, they can construct their own idea and they can develop together using bubble talk and writing something. Also they can use their gestures to clarify their ideas at the same time. So I think partially we can understand their collaboration within this framework. I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a comment from Jude An. Here it is. True. I think it is useful for CLIL lessons, content and language integrated learning, or EMI less English mediated. That's good comment. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any more questions or comment? Would be highly appreciated. Vianney, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Pak Sigit, I think there is one question from Pak Darmadi in the chat box.
Let me see. Okay. Yeah, that's the questions. In my research on visual thinking match into the PDE pattern, my question is it enough to stop in learning to draw before evaluating? Get the point, Doc.
Sorry, could you?
Okay, let me repeat. My research on visual thinking match into the PDE patterns. My question is it enough to stop in learning to draw before evaluating? Is it enough to stop in learning to draw before evaluating? That's the question, simple question.
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, I think this is a really important question. As I mentioned, perhaps the goal would be the use of multimodal resources to learn some content. So I would recommend draw to learn strategy in a group setting would be possible way to utilize multiple modes together. So in this sense, drawing the diagram cannot be the most strong way, but it is possible way, and it may prompt student use of their language, verbal language, at the same time use their gesture, considering their learning progression. So I would like to say that draw to learn or drawing diagram can be a part of their learning. Not we cannot stop their learning through this draw diagram. Thank you for this question. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any more question? I think, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about multimodality, nowadays, still monomodal, verbal is still the predominant. Pak Joko, selamat, please.
Yes,
You are
okay.
raising it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sigit, for this occasion. First of all, it's honorable to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. Related to the PDA, what I've just read in the report from this report with illustrations of PDA patterns and its variations, it is argued that the PDA pattern provides an insight to the dynamic organization of interactions involved in group drawing that takes into the considerations of multimodal affordance of verbal and visual modes of the representation and represent the ideas developed through collaborative discourses. In my questions is related to the enforcement of the technology, how do we integrate the TPEC approach into this PDA? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for a great question. I think this is very timely question that we need to think, because we need to think about integration of technology in science classroom or the adult classroom as well. And yes, there's some growing attention to use such as tablet pad to share their idea visually, and they can share their drawn diagram through for example, Google diagram. I forgot the name of it, but there are some platforms they can share their shared diagram together, and then they can also do this activity through Zoom session or something. So it means that we can still see the possibility of this framework to apply to see student collaboration using tablet or online platform. So, and yeah, but there's some different communicational limitation if we use some technicians, because writing or drawing down with a pen on the paper is very instant action compared to using tablet. And tablet may some obstacles to draw by students at the first time. So teachers may train students to utilize the tablet at the beginning, and then I think about later they can utilize and they can collaborate together to produce some collective ideas using technologies. This is my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 3 to 4 minutes left. If there is more questions, that would be good. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? No, it seems it's my turn to come to some wrap up. Main point. Questions, ladies and gentlemen? No more. Seems to raise hand or write on the chat. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now let me bring you the main points. Hopefully, I'm not bringing the main points. First of all, Dr. John, your part presents is research-based about multimodality in terms of learning, science learning, everyone. We have on one hand cognitive theory and multimodality learning in which the basic assumption is better learning through multimodality, because by so doing, 5 senses will work rather than 1 sense works. The second is through representation. So combine cognitive theory and multimodality learning plus representation, in which in representation we have macro level, the visible, and micro level, which is invisible. Between the two, there must be a link, which is coherent explanation. If we are successful bringing these two, there will be some benefit. First, integration of multimodalities. Second, joint reasoning among students. Draw to learn is beneficial, but maybe everybody, most important for us today, as I do believe here there are interesting participant scholars whose interest in multimodality and education as well. As we are educated, the challenge will be maybe to what extent we are brave to challenge nowadays trend, which is still mono. Everything assessment still based on monomodality instead of multimodality. Nowadays, the youth learn more from YouTube, not from books. That's our challenge. Thank you, Dr. John Ian Park. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's give a warm applause for Dr. John Ian Park, the first keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this opportunity for me. Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for the first presentation by Dr. John Ian Park. Now we are ready to welcome the second keynote speaker. She is Dr. Ha Huang. I would like to present you some information regarding the second keynote speaker, Dr. Ha Huang. Dr. Ha Huang is from School of Linguistics and Applied Language Studies. He got PhD at the Schools of Linguistics and Applied Language Studies, Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand, gentlemen. She got 20 years of teaching experience. Currently working on competency-based assessment for EAP students. She is definitely has a solid experience and sound academic standing. As here we can see, she has a lot of publications, international reputation, among which, for example, everybody, it is published in ICETECH 2017, Researching Writing Processes, the Case of Foreign Language Learners Method for Broadcast, 2017, ICETECH Research Methods Cases, internationally reputable publication. Another in 2016, Drawing a Tale in J. Arnold and E. Eric editors, New Ways in Teaching with Music, Alexandria, PA, Dispo. Yes, it's not good for me to talk a lot. Now let's welcome Dr. Ha Huang from Victoria University of Wellington. We allot you 35 minutes of presentation, and that will be followed by a 15-minute question and answer session. Dr. Ha Huang, please take the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the second keynote speaker, Dr. Ha Huang.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me clearly?
Yeah, it's good. You can proceed right away.
Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be a speaker at ICETECH 2022 at Universitas Madiun. First of all, I would like to thank Agita Risman Durik Mawatia for reaching out for me about the conference. And I would like to also thank the organizing committee for their hard work behind the scene. So to start the talk, I would like to share the screen, everyone. Okay. Can you see it, everyone?
Definitely, doctors. Just go on.
Good. My talk today is on the trends and choices around the development of a language curriculum. While the title is about language in general, I will be using research and examples in English language teaching. And another small point to note is that by developing, I mean working with a curriculum in the sense of both creating a new one and improving a present one. What it means is that I'm not talking about the process of designing, implementing, and evaluating the curriculum. That will be the topic for another day. I will spend the first half of the talk talking about the present trends in language curriculum development and about the hard choices that teachers may face when it comes to working with a curriculum. And in the second half, I would like to focus on the role of teachers in language curriculum development and innovation. Let me begin by asking you a question. Who's interested in the curriculum? Teachers, students, schools, parents, material writers, publishers, educational officers, teaching and non-teaching organizations, local and national councils, policymakers, politicians, employees, employers, businesses. The list can go on and on. Did anyone say not me? The fact is that the curriculum, no matter how big or small, reflects the philosophical, historical, psychological, and social foundations of those who create it and those who use it. Basically, it reflects the time and place and the economics, political, social, and cultural environments that is born in. Now, language curriculum is also a territory of competing interest. This is partly because the language curricula vary in scope and scales. It could range from a multinational framework to a school curriculum, to a program, to a one-week intensive training, or even a one-on-one tutorial. Now, one of the most important tensions in language curriculum development, especially in the English language teaching market, is probably the tension between education as a private good and education as a public good. That is the tension between learning and teaching for money and learning and teaching for values. Now, this in general, language curriculum approaches can be have been organized around 4 approaches of linguistic-based, content-based, learner-centered, and learning-centered. The curricula that we are familiar with, like notional, functional, genre-based, skill-based, linguistic-based curricula, integrated language and content learning, and theme-based, content-based curricula, negotiated curriculum, humanistic curriculum, and task-based language learning. They are examples of learner-centered approach. You can read more about these approaches in Criticism and Murren's 3rd volume of English Language Teacher. Now, more and more language programs nowadays are adopting learning-centered approach with outcome-based, competence-based, standards-based curriculum. Some programs combine different approaches. Now, interestingly, curriculum policies in the world are moving towards emphasizing 21st century key competencies for lifelong learning, which integrate knowledge, attitudes, and values that are context-dependent and involve practices and applications in real-world context. Discussions in language curriculum development in general have highlighted many issues such as equity, gender issues, academic freedom, accountability measures, the diverse and changing student profiles, and the pervasive influence of technologies, and also the pressure to produce work-ready graduates, and many more. The tensions from these discussions have given rise to new curriculum models and frameworks. On this slide, you can see some examples of curriculum models and frameworks. And this is by no way an exhaustive list. It seems that the curriculum designer is spoiled for choice. But is that so? At one of the discussion sessions in my MA class on language curriculum development, a student asked me what am I to do going forward. There are so many frameworks and models and trends, and I don't know which one to choose from. But without a method, how could I develop or even work with a curriculum? So now please allow me to ask you the same question. What do you think? To method or not to method? Let us consider one case study before we get to the answer. The English Language Institute at Victoria University of Wellington offers an English for academic purposes, specially designed for those who are going to do a postgraduate study. The course is 10-week intensive, and it covers these areas, as you can see on the screen there. The contents are delivered synchronously and asynchronously. Now, the goals are then translated to these. So I'm going to zoom into these the writing skills. So the course sets 10 complex writing goals for students. Now these goals are then translated into these class activities and tasks. So the students are assessed through their task performance throughout the course, and there is no final exam. Once they meet the course goals, they go straight to their postgraduate training. Now, back to our question. What do you think is the approach adopted for the development of the course? So you can see that it's a bit of everything, even though overall it seems to be a competency-based curriculum because it has the overarching competency statements that guide the course, but its contents are theme-based and skill integrated. They are built around the three themes of migration, work-life balance, and learning for an uncertain future. And the assignments are genre-based and task-based. The fluency and language strengths are based on a negotiated syllabus. And if we look really carefully, we can identify elements of many other approaches, and we can see the bearing of technology and critical pedagogy in the design of the course too. So it is an example to show that curriculum designers emphasize one approach in some situations, and they promote another in other cases. Because when we don't limit ourselves to any particular method, we can avoid the weaknesses of these approaches, and we can put the strengths of other approaches to our advantage, which in the end would benefit our learners even more. So, okay, I have designed a curriculum. So far, so good. Now, it could be great if I could teach my curriculum to the group of students that I have in mind, with all the resources and time I need, and with all the support I want. Unfortunately, that's not life as I know it. After a few trimesters with different groups of students and different teaching teams, I have to ask myself, what has happened to my curriculum? It's changed. Now, we all know that a cat has 9 lives. My cat has spent 3 of her lives already. she once got stuck up a tree and I had to climb up the tree to get her down. Another time she ran away for 2 nights. And once she came home with a sore leg after partying all night. Anyway, in terms of the curriculum, according to Glathorn and colleagues, a curriculum has 7 lives. They put forward a model that recognizes the social, political, historical, and personal forces that influence a curriculum. So according to this model, there are 7 types of curricula. First, we have the recommended curriculum that outlines the content and skills of the curriculum, and it is representative of what an ideal curriculum might be in terms of teaching and learning. It is generic in nature, and is most frequently presented as the list of goals, requirements, or recommendations. Recommended curriculum has an influence over policymakers who have the capacity to influence the curriculum. It can establish boundaries and standards for planning and promotes learning and teaching. The second type is the written curriculum, which aims to ensure that educational goals of a system are being achieved. Therefore, this one is obviously more specific than the recommended curriculum. It includes not only the general goals and objectives of the recommended curriculum, but also the specific learning activities and the learning materials that should be used to guide learners in the achievement of the objectives. The written curriculum is sometimes referred to as a curriculum guide, which helps to mediate or to connect the implementation of the recommended curriculum. But the written curriculum can be controlling and restrictive by nature, and it can be interpreted very differently between teachers and managers. The curriculum that's recommended and written can be different when it comes to what is supported in that context. So we have the supported curriculum is the one that is afforded and shaped by the resources allocated to it. For example, how much time is allocated for the whole program, how learning times are spaced out, and how much time teachers have to work with the students, whether teachers and learners have access to learning materials and other resources or technology. So in other words, the supported curriculum is the recommended one in real life. Now, we also have the taught curriculum is the one that has been filtered through the teacher's lenses. Many factors like resources, professional beliefs, and personal preference result in the teacher's decision on what to teach and how to teach something. The differences between teachers' interpretation of a curriculum are expected, but of course, we wouldn't want the extreme situation where every teacher turns the taught curriculum into their own written curriculum. So because of that, reflection and evaluation are therefore needed to ensure this won't happen. We also have a very dangerous one, the tested curriculum. Refers to the part of the curriculum that is assessed by teachers in the classrooms and at the program levels. We know that the content that is covered in classrooms doesn't always match the content that is covered in a test. So in many cases, standardized tests actually dictate the taught curriculum. And there is the learned curriculum, which is the curriculum that represents what students actually know and experience. We are aware that students do not learn everything that we teach them, and they will often focus on what's going to be tested or what they believe to be important. Now, on top of this, there is also a hidden curriculum. It is sometimes called the unintended curriculum. It is born out of the interactions between many stakeholders in the process of implementing the curriculum. The hidden curriculum can overpower the taught curriculum and influence thinking and behaviors within and beyond the classroom, and sometimes may lead to conflicts against the goals and values of the school and the larger society. Now, this motto is useful because it shows that every curriculum actually lives a life of its own. We cannot predict which directions the language curriculum in a particular context will take. It remains important for all of us, all of those involved in the theory and practice of curriculum, to be aware of the possibilities as well as the tensions, threats, challenges, and opportunities. The same curriculum can be perceived in a very different ways by different stakeholders. So how the curriculum is resourced, implemented, and learned can be very different from what the curriculum developers intend to do in the first place. And so, what to do with all these types of curricula? So far, things seem pretty messy, I know. So let's review some theory. So how about fuzzy logic? Developing a curriculum is working with a fuzzy problem, a problem that is very difficult to put your finger on. And developing a curriculum is working with a fuzzy problem for at least 3 reasons. First, because the curriculum is about people, and there are so many actors involved in this business of language learning. Even an individual learner is not an open book for us to read. We may know them to some extent in the classroom, but they operate in different selves and different identities in their real-world communities, in their virtual communities, in imagined communities, and we don't have enough knowledge about their worlds yet. And if we place those people problems in a context, we see that a language curriculum is developed, implemented, and evaluated in multiple layers of context. So while the learning site that learning happens could be a school classroom or a private classroom, itself is a dynamic, complex social system. And the context of the language curriculum includes the institution, the larger community, the provincial and national political context, and increasingly, the global context. That is why the best curriculum, that is, if you have one, the best curriculum for one context is not the best for another. So, for example, one of the most influential curriculum publications is the CEFR, the Common European Framework of Reference. And the framework has been revised and validated again and again and proved to be very popular in many other countries. Many other countries have attempted to adopt it, but each attempt of adoption, for example, in Thailand, in Japan, Vietnam, and in Malaysia, each time of adoption is heavily burdened with work to modify and adapt it. Now, the third reason that makes curriculum development fuzzy is because it is about power and responsibility. We need to be clear about who conceptualizes the curriculum problem, who conducts the processes, who evaluates, for what purposes, and in which context. And we also need to understand the relationship between the processes. Language curriculum development in particular is very much sensitive to policies changes. And we know that language policies change more often than expected. So language curriculum development processes can grow into a topic of considerable debate, engaging policymakers, experts, and the whole society at large. Now, when the learners and teachers are placed in the middle of these big waves, what responsibility should the curriculum developers assume to empower teachers and learners so that quality learning happens? Sorry. If we see that developing a curriculum means working with a fuzzy problem, then we need to realize also that as teachers, we are problem solvers. It is because teachers are part of the whole curriculum development, implementation, and evaluation process. And there are often perceptions that teachers are only tools in the learning machine system, and that they don't have the power. But let's look at the issue the other way around. If the teacher was to be in charge of everything from designing the curriculum to writing materials to teaching, working with students inside and outside classroom, setting criteria, conducting evaluation as well, then what would happen? What do you think? It's really unrealistic and unscientific, is it? So a more realistic and accountable way is for teachers to take on their role as problem solvers in the process, so they realize that they're not alone and that they can collaborate with different players in this game and that they have the power to make the difference. To do this, we need to understand what influences the teacher's practice and what practice the teacher can influence. There are many factors that influence on how you perform your role as a teacher. Some possibilities are here on the screen. And I'm sure you can add many more. And each of these possibilities opens a line of research itself. But for now, let's move on to look at 3 simple practices that teacher can influence. First, teacher can exercise their agency to decide on their role when working with curriculum. When we talk about our students, we would want them to be active in their learning process, to have knowledge and to design their own learning process. We want our students to be prepared to assume the role of the problem solver. The same questions can be asked about ourselves. Do we realize that we can influence our own practice and beyond? And are we ready to be problem solvers? So teachers have been found to approach the curriculum in 3 ways. They can adopt the fidelity approach and become a curriculum transmitter. They can adopt the adaptation approach and become active to adjusting curriculum to match the classroom and local context. Or they can be the curriculum makers, adopting the enactment approach here, which is the curriculum as a process jointly created and experienced by students and teachers. Now, of course, the 3 approaches are much more complex than what is summarized here, but the takeaway message is that teachers need to overcome curriculum fidelity constraints by adapting and making the curriculum. Now, if you think changing the way you approach the curriculum seems to be out of reach, context constraints and many other reasons, resources, lack of time, I know. Now, how about changing your relationship with your own classroom beliefs and become a high expectation teacher? The effects of teacher expectations, we know as teachers and students are pervasive. Research has shown that it is not students' ability that undermines achievements, but rather their teachers' expectations and the associated attitudes and practices. So when teachers' expectations increase, their attitudes, belief, and teaching practices also change, and the students will have more advanced opportunities to learn. The positive attitudes and the equitable practices of high expectation teachers also lead to higher levels of engagement, motivation, and self-efficacy in students. That is because the students are very aware of how we expect of them. Now, I think that is really great news for teachers because you can really make a difference. Now, I have a handout on the differences between high expectation teaching and low expectation teaching that I am happy to share with you after the talk. Now, if the teacher's problem is how to make learning happen, they can do this by pushing the curriculum to optimize learning opportunities for learners. Obviously, learning happens only when there is an opportunity for it to happen. Now, this opportunity can be access to learning or education in general, or in the case of language learning, could be access to some specific conditions that ensure learning can happen and can be sustained over time. So in very simple terms, a language learning opportunity can be seen as access to any provision that is likely to lead to an increase in any aspect of language knowledge or skill, or in many cases, sometimes students don't learn anything much, but they have developed a positive attitude towards language learning, which is a great starting point. Now, sometimes this can be as simple as giving students the opportunity to ask a question, to negotiate meaning, or to read and derive meaning. And outside the classroom could be, to practice and use a foreign language to more people. And now there are a lot more of opportunities available to learners than before through print media, and the internet. Also, there is this development of multilingual communities through migration and travel, and the growth of virtual society and professional communities on the internet. And there are also the increased availability of new learning management systems, and all of which make language learning opportunities more readily available than ever before. But that doesn't mean that learning opportunities are necessarily more accessible. We know that learning opportunities are context mediated. So sometimes it's something that can, so there is variable. So while there is the gray range and the availability, quantity, and quality of learning opportunities, it doesn't mean that it's available to all students on the same. And but what different teaching approaches also look into different conditions to identify learning opportunities. And I think it is best to leave to the individual teacher's choice. But whatever approach you're adopting, learning opportunities should be identified based on the understanding that learning is a social behavior and happens as the consequence of social interaction. And it is a process that needs to be scaffolded deliberately and flexibly. And that in-class value should have, in-class learning should have value beyond the class. And actually, learning does not have to be restricted to the classroom. So I think when developing the curriculum, if we place the learners and their learning goals in their personal, local, and global context, we'll be able to see the learning opportunities that are present and those that are absent but needed. And once this is done, the next step would be to prioritize those that will benefit the learners most within the constraints of time and resources of the course. And in this way, we can create options for other opportunities. Now, this argument suggests that beyond designing for learning, the teacher also need to manage learning opportunities. And this could really rely on the creativity of individual teachers. And so the result can be really varied. So that means that in some contexts, the teachers need to realize that the larger part in the teacher's responsibility for learning opportunities lies in managing the opportunities with the learners. It is because if the learners do not perceive and absorb the opportunities you give them, then obviously no learning will happen. And how to foster the take up of these opportunities as they arrive? The answer is to foster and promote learner autonomy. Now, one more point I'd like to add is that not all learners have equal access to the learning opportunities you have provided, because learners have different learning needs and they are in different learning positions. Some learning opportunities may seem very obvious to one learner, like turn to your right and talk to your partner, but that is almost impossible to a learner who has social anxiety. So when teachers build learning opportunities into curriculum, they think about the range of abilities of the whole group and about where the highest and lowest achievers may get to. And in the same way, they need to make sure that learning opportunities they provide are inclusive and equitable. Now, I have on this slide two very useful checklists that I think that I recommend to use to see whether your curriculum has provided optimal learning opportunities for the students. So both are Polynesians ideas. The first one is really simple. It says that for a general language course, a good one would be the one that has a good balance of fluency practice, meaning-focused input, meaning-focused output, and language-focused learning. Paul says that it should be a balance of 25% of the course time for each of these strengths. Even though there has been no research to prove that number 25% is a real number, but anyway, the 4 strengths give us a very good idea of how to balance out opportunities. The second one, what he calls the 7 principles of learning vocabulary and everything else. And so the 7 principles are grouped into 3 groups of focus principles, quantity principles, and quality principles. And as you can see on the screen here, and because the quality and the quantity of focus really influences the depth of learning, and that directly influences the outcome learning. And here I'd like you to pay attention to this one, the levels of processing here. It really corroborates with what Dr. Park was saying earlier about the multimodality of learning, because that is when you engage in learning the same content across different models, we're engaging with learning at different levels. And the deeper you process the information, the deeper you learn. And also the retention will be longer. So teachers can not only choose the classroom activities, but also make decisions on the classroom processes like learner participation, collaboration, and even advice on the learner and so on. So like any other professionals, teachers make different decisions in any one class. And teaching is a reflective and experimental activity, and we need to understand it so that we can engage in it more effectively. So here's what teachers can do to be agents of change when facing with the trends and choices and working with the curriculum. So first, it's important to ask who may influence the curriculum that I develop, because we know that the curriculum reflects the power game in a context. So in the making process, there are struggles for powers as groups and individuals compete and advocate for their positions. And this struggle for power decides the belief systems and practice that will win, then that will fit into the final curriculum. The second point that is related to the first one is to understand that language curriculum is not neutral and value-free. Well, basically, everything in life is not neutral and value-free, but it is even more so for the language curriculum. Now think about the topics chosen for a textbook or training program, for example. Think about the pictures, the audio visuals that are used to illustrate the contents. Do you remember in your English language textbook, the people are featured in there, the clothes they wear, the accent they speak? So these seemingly very minor things may indicate to learners the social values and what they should consider as important or unimportant. So the curriculum developer needs to consider these values as they are implied and hidden in the curriculum. Changes in the curriculum, you see, also happen all the time and influenced by new understanding and new research all the time. So the curriculum developers and teachers need to stay updated and open to new learning. And it is good to remember that theories, ideologies, methodologies, they are all guiding means and they are not absolute truth. The curriculum also needs to be flexible to exploit new learning opportunities that are brought about by new dimensions of knowledge and new technologies. This is because a curriculum is not a list of things to be taught. It is constantly being planned, implemented, changed and evaluated. So when you design your next curriculum, you can try removing the boundaries of the textbooks, the boundaries of a classroom, the boundaries of learning time and learning space. By breaking away from textbooks, time and space, learning platforms, then you will realize that there's so many teaching, learning, and assessment options that are available that can make use of multimodal resources to help students to develop multiliteracies when they learn a language. And this awareness of new possibilities is really crucial for the teachers. So because that helps you to build the flexibility into the curriculum. So this curriculum can foster not only your students' learning, but also your own professional learning. Now, finally, because of the range of knowledge, skills, and possibilities that are required in the process of language curriculum development, it is a good thing and is advisable to adopt collaborative and reflective practice in developing a curriculum. The curriculum designer, first of all, I think, must clarify their beliefs and values to know what's worth knowing and what's worth teaching, so that the curriculum has a strong rationale. But the effective curriculum designers, the one who are sensitive and smart to realize the need to collaborate with and to include the voices of the diverse individuals and groups, so that they can create space for reflective practice before, during, and after the curriculum development process. So to wrap up, a curriculum is a living thing that's constantly in the making. So in this sense, curriculum development is always shifting perspectives and constantly reflecting new and hopefully liberating visions of learning and living. But whatever you do, just don't let the curriculum restrict learning. And that brings me to the end of my talk, everyone. I hope I still have time for the questions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hawa. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the delivery about curriculum. Very comprehensive and in-depth. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for me to invite you to get involved. You may have questions, suggestions, or comment, or whatever. Please raise your hand, mention your name and your institution or affiliation, or just write your question on the chat box. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting for your participation.
It looks like I've stunted the audience.
No problem. Still very interesting topic. Jutan, okay, Jutan, please speak up. Thank you for the first to participate.
Hi, Dr. Ha. Yeah, good to see you again. So, like you said, curriculum design is really a fuzzy problem. Like, but I face a problem in Malaysian context, right? So, the situation is in terms of managing learning opportunities for fluency development is actually a neglected strand in our curriculum design. So, to what extent that a teacher can modify, since there's no time allocated for fluency development and assessing fluency in our curriculum design. Yeah, and then yeah, so basically it's a it's quite restricted because we couldn't actually insert that element of fluency development, the 25% that Paul Nation actually recommended. So to what extent, or to what extent a teacher can play as an agent for modifying that? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you, Jude, for the question. I think that question of fluency actually it touches on a very important issue with English language learning in many contexts. That's why that explains why after so many years of like learning English language at schools, students still cannot engage in a simple conversation because they haven't got any opportunity to practice their fluency. And fluency is actually something really simple. It means that you are engaged in a lot of easy, speaking, listening, reading, writing tasks that suitable for your level every day. It's really simple. So if a curriculum is really constrained in terms of time, I would suggest a really simple warm-up fluency activities. Every day you get into class, you say, good morning class, right? Good morning teachers, and all of those things. It takes you 15 minutes. So instead of that, people can do a quick speak, quick listen, quick write, quick read. Each of that would take about 5 minutes. And if so long as you place these activities at the right level of the students, you do that repeatedly every day, you see that fluency grows. And it doesn't have to be something really serious. Now, I have to. You don't have to. You choose to do it, and the students will love it too. So instead of saying, hello class, you can just, pair them into a group, make them talk about a topic of their choice. For example, you time them. The trick with fluency practice is that there should be a time pressure. That because of the time pressure, student will be pushed, to produce more. And you do that simple thing every day, and that's how you make learning gain. I argue with Paul all the time about that number, 25%, because I told him there's no research to prove so. And then with John McAllister also. And he said, if you cannot prove that it's wrong, obviously it's right, which I disagree. Also, it really depends on your students, right? But fluency is a must. It will help you to solve the problem of why, after so much language learning, students still cannot talk. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have 2 questions on the chat box. First, what is the best practice curriculum that can be adapted in Indonesia? Because the context in Indonesia, it's very open, changing.
Who asked me this question? They are trying to kill me, I know that. Now, everyone,
you can switch to the second question, Doctor. I like the last statement. Don't let curriculum restrict learning. Now, please comment on this.
Thank you. Before I giving your talk today, I asked Agita for a lot of documents and research studies on language curriculum in Indonesia, and I could see that there is a range of factors, that fit into what has shaped the language curriculum nowadays. And I think that there is no best curriculum practice for anyone for any context ever. And because every context is different. And within the large context of Indonesia, I realized that, and maybe you realize that Indonesia, even though you think it's Indonesia as one, really? Not really, right? There are also multi-layers of context in it.
Yeah.
And if we think about the 7 different lives of a curriculum, then we know that even if your government officers have decided this is the best one, the recommended curriculum, and then after that, after so many layers, what comes to your student is not really what the government officers had planned in the first place. So that is why we have to just be open to the idea that working with a curriculum is working with a really fuzzy problem. And we really have to tolerate and embrace this messiness. And with that growth mindset, we will be able to make the best out of a curriculum. Because in the end of the day, we ask what benefits our learners the most, right? Not just now, today in the lesson, but tomorrow, their futures out of the classroom, their future lives also. So what vision we have for them from the simple task you decide today. and that will be the best practice, I think. Yeah.
The second, it's already covered the second question. Don't let curriculum restrict learning, or already not yet.
Yeah. Thank you for liking that statement. I think that I think that many curricula actually restrict the learning, especially if, for example, if you decide that my curriculum is the communicative language teaching approach, and you must use on the communicative activities, and task to teach my curriculum. If you have this fixed mindset, then obviously you have denied so many other opportunities that many other approaches have offered to the curriculum. So yeah, I think whatever we do, we have to think about what learning is, what quality learning is, and how we can push the curriculum to deliver on the possible learning opportunities for the students. Yeah.
The third question, Patrick. This is in particular the application of curriculum in Indonesia. Now it's called Merdeka curriculum. Basically, in essence, Dr. Learning now, curriculum should not be top-down. Students are free to choose what they need. Therefore, for example, students can take subjects or lessons from outside of his or their campus. They can do humanity projects, for example. So that's basically what curriculum Merdeka means. Merdeka means freedom. Doctor. So your comment, please. What do you think?
Yeah. So I think if that is what is being done in Indonesia, I think it's a really
20 pages long. Therefore, I would like to highlight some. Regarding the education background, Dr. Ahmed Rasman Abdul Latif, ladies and gentlemen, got his PhD in corporate governance from Liverpool John Moores University in Liverpool, UK. Master's research in accounting and financial management from Lancaster University in UK. Another master is Master of Accountancy, MACC, from NTU, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. And undergraduate degree, BA degree, honors in accounting and finance, Lancaster, United Kingdom. 1994-1995, Cambridge Minors, Cambridge, UK. Professional membership, Malaysian Institute of Accounting, until now, from since 2017. Working experiences, 2018 until now. Associate Professor, Putra Business School, Selangor, Malaysia. Manager of Business Development, Putra Business School, February 2018 until now. 2016-2018, Manager of Community Development Impacts, Serdang, Selangor, Malaysia, and a lot more, everybody. Then awarded. There are many, everybody. Some of them: moderating effects on organizational culture, on the relationship between transformational leadership, social capital, and self-efficacy with board effectiveness in Malaysian corporatives. Next, moderating effects of influential owners on the relationship between the probability of corporate failure and going concern opinion insurance, and a lot more. Journal articles. Here it is written 22 articles. Some are indexed in Scopus, such as influence of instructional investors on firms' corporate social performance in an emerging market. Again, this is an example of Scopus index. Another Scopus index is sentiment classification of financial news using statistical features. Article. Chapters in books. There are 6. Book, Journey of Patient, UPM's AACSB story. Book editor 1, 2, 3. Magazine articles 4. Newspaper article 7. Media appearances. Let me see, 40. So, everybody, without doubt, Dr. Ahmed Rasman Abdul Latif is the right person, the right keynote speaker to address today's ICETECH team. Dr. Ahmed Rasman, it is allotted for you some 35 minutes to deliver main points what you are going to do. So please take the floor, Dr. Ahmed Rasman. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Ahmed Rasman Abdul Latif.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much to the Mr. Moderator. I hope you can hear me clearly.
It is.
All right.
Doctor, you can proceed.
All right. Thank you. I would like to share my screen. The topic is on the digital entrepreneurship, which I believe is a very important issues that we need to know, especially when we are currently experiencing such uncertainties at the global and also domestic level with regards to the economic potential as well as the business and industry opportunities. In fact, today at 3 o'clock Malaysian time, I will be attending another event called Asian Entrepreneurship Awards, based in Japan, participated by 14 Asian Pacific countries. And this award has been ongoing since 2012. Every year, Malaysia and Indonesia have been participating this award by nominating a startup or company to compete for this award. But surprisingly, this year there's no Indonesian startup. I do not know what happened. Maybe everyone attending this conference, but our Malaysian startup will be doing their presentation today at 3 o'clock. The startup consisted of 3 young men who invented a device that can be attached to the satellite, and so once these satellites on space will be used to wirelessly charge another satellite. I just found out 2 satellites on space, their power utilization is only 50% because they can only charge when there's a sun around. So when they circulate the Earth, when there's no sun, so they have less power. So these 3 young boys, they wanted to send a satellite that can do wireless charging to all this. So imagine you are charging your phone wirelessly right now. So now they are using a wireless satellite to boost up the energy level of the satellite. So they are going to be presenting. So this is actually one of the projects that I get involved, nurturing, helping, coaching entrepreneurs to navigate the what we call VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that we are living right now. So there are lots of opportunities, but there are also lots of hindrances or hiccups or obstacles. So to be well prepared, to know where exactly to look for, or to know how exactly to become a digital entrepreneurship in this time is very important. So I'm going to share my slide now. Okay. So the topic given to me is digital entrepreneurship or digital entrepreneur. And first of all of us are aware that for the past 2 or 3 years, almost 3 years, each of us, regardless in which country, this is the normal, typical situation that we are facing. We have been staying at home until now. To some of us, like for me, my university only allow for physical teaching or classes next year in January. So I'm still teaching online. And I think because of that reason, we are having online conference. Otherwise, I actually looking forward to be in Indonesia and to be presenting this talk. So when this happened, it affects lots of economic activities. Business transaction went down, businesses suffers because there's no activity at all, or very minimum. And but we have overcome this. All economic sectors, most of them already open, and it's a business as usual. But the kind of business that we are facing now is a bit different than before the pandemic. Somehow we notice that technology has become more prominent, and some businesses need technology to survive. So we are talking about the digitalization, we're talking about the automation, we're talking about the hybrid technologies, and these are to stay. All this technology digitalization are to stay. So how are we going to take advantage for our own sustainability in terms of as individual as well as a business? So we're talking about what's going to happen this year onwards. So you probably noticed in 2020 and 2021, this is the situation where we suffered lots of economic downturn, recession, and but we are still not out of it yet. This year, we experienced a huge increase. You probably noticed that in 2020, every country suffered drop in GDP, and 21 is the recovery. It's a steep recovery, but if you notice, the projected 2022 growth is actually lower, meaning that we are going to face another type of uncertainties. We know there are a geopolitical crisis like Russia, Ukraine, the tariff war between US and China, the disruption to the global supply chain still ongoing, the climate change that affect the produce of food, and also we are talking about more than 70 central bank all around the world started to increase the interest rate, which going to lead to economic slowdown and potential recession in some region and countries. But if you notice here, the emerging market where we are, the Malaysia, Indonesia, our growth will be higher than advanced economies and world average. So there's a potential there. There's an opportunity in the Asia region, even though economic growth will be slower, but there are higher and better potential for those in the emerging and developing markets. And if you look into World Bank report, you can download this report online for free. Every document that I share here, you can simply download it from internet. So in the latest report, October 2022, Reform for Recovery, so the forecast for 22 for the ASEAN countries, for Malaysia, Indonesia, it looks promising, because if you look, the growth is above 5 to 6, okay, for Indonesia and Malaysia, and the inflation also expected within less than 10. So for Malaysia, probably around 4 to 5, Indonesia 5 to 6. So meaning that both countries will be experiencing positive GDP growth next year, as well as control inflation rate. So this is something positive we can take from this report. And again, when we look into the private consumption, meaning that if private consumption is higher, that means people have more to spend, then it will help the business to expand. So if you look into Indonesia and Malaysia, again, it's projected that private consumption will be driving the economy higher than other ASEAN. And when we look into the exports, meaning another indicator of economic prospect, if you have higher export value, then that also shows the positive aspect of the country. And if you look, Indonesia and Malaysia are among the countries that are going to experience higher export, hopefully in the future. But at the moment, both countries are showing a good progress in terms of economic output. And so this is just the numbers where Indonesia is expected to achieve 5.1 GDP growth next year, and together with Malaysia about 4.2. Some countries expressing higher like Vietnam, but overall what I'm trying to say here, when we look into East Asia and Pacific, it's going to be positive. ASEAN 5 will be 5.1. So the opportunity is there. Now, what about the digital economy? So we are talking just now the economy in overall, but what about the digital economy itself? What is actually the challenges, the potential for the digital economy? So the latest report I can find from United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, on the digital economy 2021, talk about the opportunity in Asia and Pacific. Focus on the darker red here. You notice that mobile phone penetration is high for the Asia Pacific. Of course, the developed country, they have higher penetration, but if everyone is owning a phone, a mobile phone, that's the opportunity. And the mobile broadband also higher, almost reaching 80% for the Asia Pacific country. And if you're talking about the distribution of mobile network, we are talking about 3G, 4Gs. Of course, now we have 5Gs. In Malaysia, it's still low coverage of 5G. But when we look into the developing economies, basically the coverage already 82%, although it's considered mainly on 4Gs. That's why many countries now have started to upgrade their facilities and infrastructures to ensure that we are ready for the next generation of 5G coverage. And when we're talking about internet use for the developing economies, always increasing. We have yet to reach the 50% by the level of development. But if you look into the region, it's getting there, about 50% internet use. And it's not just simply to become the users. Okay, we don't want to just become the mobile phone user, the internet user. We want also to be able to become to have companies or businesses that manage to utilize the technologies. But however, if you look into the major digital or technological companies, of course, all these names are very familiar to us, but they belong to the Western countries, the America and Europe. And when you look into Asia, still controlled by the Chinese from China, Chinese companies, Korean, okay. But I think somewhere there we can see Gojek, Grab, okay, coming from the ASEAN region, but not many. So this is something that we need to be aware of with regards to the global presence. The digital technology company in ASEAN still not reaching the targeted level. And but the opportunity when you are focusing on technology, the digital advertising spending is increasing, meaning people or businesses has been spending more and more than ever than before to advertise on a digital platform. In fact, I think both countries have started to impose digital tax on advertising to take advantage of all this increase in spending on digital advertising. And when we're talking about 5G adoption, like I mentioned before, for Asia Pacific, still low, around 10%, slightly more than 10%. And because of that, it is expected that more and more transaction data will go through 5G rather than 4G. So this is the opportunity that needs to be realized. And so because of that, in Malaysia, the focus is actually on digital. There's one short video about what exactly Malaysia want to do. I think maybe I can share it.
The future for Malaysia is digital. The digital economy presents opportunities for the country to sustain growth and ensure that everybody benefits. More than 80% of Malaysians are digitally connected, mainly through mobile networks. But businesses are yet to be as digitally connected. Two major barriers to this are the slow broadband internet speed and a lack of affordability. Fixed broadband services are important as it is necessary to spur the deep adoption of digital technologies by businesses. This quality broadband can also improve public service delivery and address the growing demand from households. For consumers in Malaysia, high-speed broadband access also comes at a much higher cost relative to other countries. So how can Malaysia improve its digital economy and continue to harness it for development? First, we should improve the quality and affordability of fixed broadband services. And second, we should also increase the coverage of ultra-fast broadband networks. These steps can be achieved by encouraging greater competition in the fixed broadband market across all levels of the telecom supply chain. Coupled with better enforcement of the regulatory framework, Malaysia can improve the quality, affordability, and coverage of its broadband networks. These solutions will facilitate an ultra-fast gigabit level of connectivity similar to that seen in advanced economies. As Malaysia works to get up to speed, it moves closer to unlocking the potential of its digital economy. This will bring the country further in its journey towards becoming a high-income and developed economy.
So basically, this is the challenge that we face in our country. Our internet connection is not as fast as the country, but it's costly. It costs more, and that's why in Malaysia we started to have a digital economy blueprint similar to what Indonesia is having, the Making Indonesia 4.0. So when we compare both blueprint, both actually focusing on digitalization and improving or upgrading the facilities and infrastructure to support such digitalization effort. So, for example, in Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint, it's all about job creation, access to the online learning or to the internet, and for the businesses to increase more investment in digitalization, and also to improve the efficiency process of the government. And it has many action plan or objective that need to be follow up to achieve such aspiration. And the current major project that the government is having, which is going to finish until I think by 2023, is that to upgrade the connectivity from 4G to 5G. So and we're talking about the national priorities for the Indonesia. Again, it's the same where if you look into priority number 5 here. Okay, here we're talking about build nationwide digital infrastructure, advanced network digital platform from 4G to 5G as well. So that's actually something that everyone is on board right now. And something that the industry also noticed during the pandemic, okay, the businesses got caught unaware or unprepared when economic went slow or being restricted due to the movement control order. And the report here by World Bank highlighted this, that a majority of the firm, especially if they are the small and medium enterprise, they not normally invest in upskilling and innovation. Okay, but then during this pandemic, they started to utilize the digital tools in marketing and sales, especially. So they started to pivot, or they started to try a digital platform in order to survive. And marketing and sales are the most increased business function, and they are also started to use or more digital platform, and more likelihood to introduce innovative new product. Okay, and so they have increased the strategies in terms of supply chains, more focusing on automation, robotics, e-commerce, and also digital tool to manage supply chain and remote work because of this pandemic. And however, the reason why they are not doing this as fast as they would like to, because of the financial constraint. And they are hoping that the government will be able to provide some form of assistance in upgrading the digital solution. Similarly, in Indonesia, there is another report by Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada that look into what is needed among the micro and small businesses in Indonesia if they want to focus on digital economy. And basically, when they do this survey, okay, they found out that in regards to digital infrastructure, majority said, okay, acceptable, mostly available, but not everywhere we need it. And they still slightly more feel that the cost of wireless internet services actually moderately expensive. With regard to speed, acceptable, okay, but suffer from high traffic slowdown. And with regards to cross-border connectivity, they agree that they're able to connect more. And the perception with regards whether government agencies are investing enough in digital infrastructure, they said yes, doing an excellent job, about a quarter of them, sometimes. So there are still room for improvement. And whether assistance is available to increase internet infrastructure, 0% say yes. Majority say no. So there is actually another room for improvement. And the primary technology platform, majority of the companies actually using mobile phone. So we are already aware that almost everyone have mobile phone. So that's why the small and micro enterprise in Indonesia also be using the mobile. And one case study example, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this company, but during this pandemic, they are making huge losses. Okay, up to 5.9 billion quarterly loss. So it's like if they are not going to do anything about it, the company can go bankrupt. And they really desperate looking for assistance. The government didn't really provide any financial assistance, but somehow they managed to get loan. Okay, and then they decided to diversify. So from AirAsia budget airline company, they become AirAsia super app company, where they provide not just air transport service, but they also do digitalization, delivery, entertainment, financial. So this is one prime example. Not necessarily to just small and micro business, even a large company, a public listed company, have to pivot, have to change their business strategy in order to survive by focusing more on the digitalization. And in Malaysia, this is something that every business should able to take advantage of it. I'm sure the statistic or data or in Indonesia is similar to this. Majority of Malaysian population heavily use social media platform, social media network, and mobile banking penetration about 61%. Everyone experiencing online banking, and 95% is actually is a bank population. Mobile connection more than 132, meaning some people even own more than one mobile. And Malaysia population is 33 million, and internet user about 37. And there's another study looking into the consumer. Before pandemic, everyone prefer cash, majority prefer cash as a consumer, but now cash become the third preference. E-payment services, e-wallets now become more important. However, majority still use cash. Before pandemic, 89. After pandemic, 78. So they're expressing downward trend already. Less and less people are using cash. Majority still use, but it's now on downward trend. And the one that tend to prefer digital payment, urban, living in the city, and single females who are from 18 to 25 years have probably used this to do lots of shopping. And those who are yet to use cash are non-urban, living in the village, married males who are 61 to 65 years. So, and of course, this survey also confirmed that the SMEs are rapidly expanding digital payment through e-payment services, and cash has been dropping. Those who accept cash payment are still the traditional sector. And the top two priorities for these businesses to expand business to digital platform and speed up this kind of transformation. So they're also trying to do business recovery and increase customer base, but digitalization now becoming more important for them. And Malaysian FinTech Report 2021 shows that so many companies have embarked into the digitalization in terms of payment, remittance, AI data, property, e-wallet, lending, insurance, crowdfunding, blockchain, and so on and so forth. So the situation here is very encouraging. And when we're talking about the volume, is internet banking actually experiencing huge increase in the usage. And when we talk about mobile banking also is experiencing a high increment. So when talking about what would be the opportunity for those who want to become entrepreneur and focusing on digital opportunity there, the best advice can be taken from those who invest in these companies. For the startup, majority of the financing will be coming from government as well as from the investors and venture capitalists. So this article talk about that the best is yet to come to Southeast Asia. So the article talk about the region is home to more than 35 unicorns and many more in the pipeline. Southeast Asia has taken now center stage for the many investors. The investment has grown 5.2 times compared to India and China. And so he's talking about all those success story. Gojek that now merged with Tokopedia to become GoTo, value at over 35 billion. And so they are talking that the region's fundamentals, the rising demographic and income. So we have seen more and more the middle income group growing, and the population is still a young population. So they have money to spend, and they are also adapting technology. And because of that, there is lots of opportunity in decades to come. So they feel that the region is prime for even more accelerated growth. So that's all. What I'm trying to highlight here is that the opportunity for any one of us who want to be involved in the digital businesses to become digital entrepreneur is right. The time is now. All the statistic data report that I have shared shown that everything is moving in the right direction. The only thing left for you to do is to figure out what kind of business idea that you want to sell. Someone asked me what's the difference between a businessman and entrepreneur. Businessman, you buy banana for 10,000 rupiah and you sell at 20,000 rupiah. That's businessman. Entrepreneur, you buy 10,000. You buy a banana at 10,000 rupiah, but you convert it into, process it into banana shake, and you sell at 50,000 rupiah at a higher price because it has a value added there. Digital entrepreneur, you buy banana at 10,000 rupiah, you process it into banana shake, but you sell it online via Shopee or Lazada. You deliver it in a nice packet, you sell it at 100,000 rupiah. So that's actually what digital entrepreneur is all about. And if you like to follow all my economic commentaries, finance management, I have about 400 videos in my YouTube channel. So you can just follow there. And I can also be contacted at these details. In fact, actually, I'm quite visible on internet. You can just simply Google and find my contact details there. So thank you so much. And also, I give it to the Mr. Moderator now to start the Q&A discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed Rasman. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for you to get involved in participations. Whether you have any questions or comments or suggestions, now this is the first From Jude, and thank you, Jude, among the active participants. This is the question. Hi, Dr. Rasman. The gap between urban and rural internet accessibility is still a problem, or urban areas are already 5G capable, but due to the geographical restriction in Sarawak and Sabah, wide area and no population. Many areas, 7 school.
Okay. I read the chat from Jude Tan. Thank you, Tan, for the comment. Okay, this is interesting. In Malaysia, we have 13 states. 2 of them, Sabah, Sarawak, located in Kalimantan. And even though they have very valuable natural resources, the oil and gas, but somehow they are still less developed than states in the peninsula. But I think things are going to change because the new capital city of Indonesia, Nusantara will be located right in the middle of the Borneo, the Kalimantan Borneo. So, and a simple setup of the infrastructure like highway or whatever can really help Sabah and Sarawak to benefit from this. And that's actually among the main hindrance to help the people and the businesses to take advantage of the digital economy. It's not simply setting up 5G tower or giving them a mobile phone to start selling their handicraft or their products over internet when you do not even have a road to begin with. So the focus still to develop the traditional infrastructure like road access, like electricity, like water. Okay, then together with the internet connectivity, that's what people in Sabah and Sarawak, especially in the rural area, experiencing. How can they use internet when the electricity supply is still not to the optimum level? So because of that, you still have to focus on the providing the basic infrastructure. But this is coming from the government initiative. The government have the necessity resources to start providing such infrastructure, but it's very we cannot simply relying on government to start doing all this infrastructure project. That's where the startup, the private sector can come in to assist to come up with innovation. Can we have a mobile energy generation facilities, for example, a solar powered generator to provide not just the electricity, but also to boost the connectivity to the telecommunication tower. So one of my friend, a native Sarawakian, he invented he has, I think, more than 30 patents when he was working in US. His specialization on the LED blue light. When the government of Malaysia offered him opportunity to contribute back to his country, so he decided to come back, set up a factory in Malacca, but also he wanted to help his native Sarawakians. So what he did is to take over one company who in charge of solar panel installed in schools, and his mission actually to ensure every school will have access to the electricity and internet connection. So he took the initiative to provide such facilities so that these people can benefit. So this is the kind of collaboration that we hope to see public-private initiative where the government facilitate the process or the initiative to reduce the gap between the urban and rural, but they cannot do this alone or by themselves if there's no support from the private sector, especially on the startup. So that's, I think, a good case study where if you have a good proposal and if you can present it to the government, they will support you all the way to ensure both parties' objectives will be achieved. Thank you.
Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? You can raise your hand or write your question on the chat box.
Maybe it's lunchtime over there. So
if no more questions, then I would like to, I will not summarize it. I will not provide the main point, but basically everybody, thank you, Dr. Ahmed Abdurrahman, bringing the life we are living now. That's digital entrepreneurships, along with the opportunity as well as the challenges. The challenges among them is that there is still in Indonesia, at least Malaysia, as mentioned, still a technological gaps in some areas. Some already highly facilitated with 5G, some others even difficult to access internet. That's why this is, one hand we have opportunities, on the other we have challenges. But anyway, we have to move to digitalization. The world we now living in, whether we like it or not. Today, it's time to go to, in terms of economy, it's time for us to entrepreneurship. Doctor, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to come to the last keynote speaker. That will be delivered by Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. Let me present some information about the last keynote speaker, Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo currently is President, Director of Universitas PGRI Madiun here in Indonesia. He got his doctoral degree from Universitas UNS Surakarta, master degree from Unipa Surabaya, and bachelor degree from Surabaya. Now it becomes UNESA, Pendidikan Akuntansi Accounting Education. Organizational records, he got involved in PGRI from 2017 to 2021. A prodigy, this is a professional organization from 2019 to 2021. Professional records, first Dean of Faculty of Social Science Education, 2007 to 2011. The head of Financial Office, 2011 to 2015. Vice Rector 2 from 2015 to 2020. And now he serves as the Rector of Universitas PGRI 2022 to 2026. He is a well-known scholar, everyone. Here it is mentioned 2 records on research, 2019, 2020, and some articles. It is noted here 18 articles written in reputable journals. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's welcome the last keynote speaker, Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo, it is allotted some 30 minutes for you to deliver the main points, and then there will be a question and answer. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Sigit. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Good morning. In this seminar session, I will present my idea about the urgency of collaboration and innovation to improve the quality of learning. First, we will discuss the current state of the world.
Is good. This one is the slideshow. You go on, Dr. Supri.
Dari sini. Sorry, Mr. Sigit. Error.
No problem, Doctor. No problems. We'll relax and everything will be settled.
Okay, Mr. Sigit. First, we will discuss the current state of the world. As we all know, nowadays we can easily find the use of technology in various aspects of life, such as, first, the use of technology in social interaction. Second, the development of virtual markets. Third, the use of robots equipped with artificial intelligence in assembling car components. We can also access unlimited data. We call this the digital era. In this digital era, many changes have been made in human interaction and lifestyle, impacted and disrupted some professions and developed new ones with more complex competencies. This dynamic world change has impacted all aspects of life, including education. Furthermore, with regard to the challenge and opportunities of digital age, human needs are more complex, with various limitations of natural resources, energy crisis, extreme climate change, and prolonged wars and conflict. Opportunities owned by people around the world are technology and human resources. The human resources referred to here are human resources who have specific, unique competencies and can adapt quickly. Collaboration between human and technology, artificial intelligence, can turn existing challenges into opportunities. Education and human resources. All countries, including Indonesia, must strive to improve the quality of human resources. One of the relevant ways to be taken is to improve the quality of education. The opportunity for universities to produce graduates with the required competencies is a reference for all universities worldwide. To produce quality graduates, universities must make adaptive curriculum adjustment to dynamic market change. Adaptive curriculum refers to keyword innovation and collaboration. Innovation in education. Innovation in education relates to how all learning components are changed to improve quality. Learning innovation includes models, designs, methods, teaching materials, media, and learning assessment. Learning innovation is developed in Indonesia. Indonesian learning innovation leads to integrating technology, pedagogic, and content material in various reference. This term is known as TPACK, pedagogical, technological, contents, knowledge. In addition, metacognitive abilities, 21st century skill, and higher order thinking skill are among the values of learning innovation in Indonesia to respond to the challenge of a dynamic world change. Curriculum. PGRI Madiun University has prepared various innovation in learning, starting with implementing the Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka (MBKM) curriculum. This curriculum strengthens the link and match of university graduates with the needs of the industrial world. Implementing the MBKM curriculum provides opportunities for students to study outside the campus with various forms of activities. The form of MBKM learning activities include those that UNIPMA, among others, have implemented. 1. Student exchange. 2. Internship of industrial work practice. 3. Educational internship. 4. Research. 5. Humanitarian project. 6. Entrepreneurial education internship. Entrepreneurial activities. 7. Independent studies or project. 8. Real thematic work lectures. Curriculum development and policy. PGRI Madiun University also has a curriculum development and implementation policy based on, first, outcome-based curriculum. Curriculum development based of graduate learning profiles and achievement. Second, outcome-based learning and teaching. Implementation of learning activities that define as interaction in learning activities between lectures, student and learning resources. One of the important principles of UBLT is the accuracy of choosing the form of methods of learning that students will carry out, which must refer to and follow CPL. The outcome is assessment and evaluation. An assessment and evaluation approach carried on the achievement of GLO to improve continuous quality learning. The learning applied at the PGRI Madiun University must be interactive, holistic, integrative, scientific, contextual, thematic, effective, and collaborative. Priorities the development of creativity and personality, and develop independent in finding knowledge. The approach used by lecturers in UNIPMA must be student-centered and all collaborative. Innovative learning models and approach applied at UNIPMA include problem-based learning, project-based learning with a scientific approach, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or STEM. This model and approach is one option to strengthen graduates' adaptive competence. Developing an assessment that leads to metacognitive abilities and higher order thinking is also a research topic applied as a learning innovation at PGRI Madiun University. Digital infrastructure support for a learning platform based on the learning management system applied. In this article, I will describe the learning innovation applied at UNIPMA and the ideas for collaboration in learning that are possible to apply at UNIPMA. Problem-based learning. One of the innovation of the PBL model carried out by UNIPMA lectures is using PBL with a scientific approach. Research Utomo et al. 2019-2022 provides information that using the PBL model with a scientific approach can improve higher order thinking skill. This result is certainly a reference for the application of learning with the relevant material characteristic to use this model and approach. This approach is used for science learning, but this result can broaden the understanding that the scientific approach can also be implemented in various disciplines. The use of PBL model can also improve student skill in making presentation, especially in preparing presentation material. Utomo et al. 2018. PBL can also improve student problem-solving abilities. Hasan et al. 2019. PBL stimulates students to solve the problem present by collecting as much information as possible, then analyzing it to find the correct solution to the existing problem. The solution to this problem does not have to have only one correct answer. Students must learn creatively and independently, especially in exploring solutions to problems. The use of PBL can also improve learning outcome. Rahman et al. 2020. By integrating the PBL model with the use of appropriate media. Project-based learning. In addition to the PBL model, the project-based learning model is widely researched and applied at UNIPMA. PGBL emphasizes designing and or making product as output. Like PBL, PGBL continues to conduct problem-solving analysis activities by producing product. The PGBL model applies to vocational program at UNIPMA. Research related to PGBL includes Pratama and Prastianingrum, which produce micro hydropower plant product or prototype and improve critical thinking skill. PGBL also applies to business planning products from the electronic circuit practicum. Prastianingrum et al. This research provides information that PGBL has a good influence on entrepreneurial abilities. PGBL implemented in the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. The project involves using software to make it easier to learn geometry. Polit et al. And fundamental physics, Andika et al. The curriculum within the UNIPMA department also developed project-based and case methods learning to strengthen learning quality. Digital media and teaching material have been widely developed and implemented in learning at UNICMA. Using an LMS-based platform stimulates lectures to convert teaching material from hard copy to soft copy. This change certainly has a positive impact on improving learning and willingness to access student learning resources. LMS-based model at UNICMA, now referred to as ELMA, has helped lecturers and students carry out the teaching learning process. LMS-based e-learning used in the teaching profession of teacher. Learning is done online and through blended learning. Learning progress is well recorded, making it easier to monitor and evaluate. The use of LMS also support the development of digital assessment. Pukitasari et al. The digital argument of students in the forum are well recorded, making it easier for lecturers to create schemas for student thinking. Lugitasari et al. Not only digital argumentation, but critical thinking skill can also identify through online learning through the ELMA platform. Lugitasari et al. Collaboration. UNICMA also carries forth collaborative activities with other universities. Collaborative activities include Tridharma activities such as national and international seminar, student exchange, research and community service, joint research, guest lecture, activities, lectures exchange, exchange of experts, and various other activities. This activity provides benefit for students related to learning experience outside of campus. Lectures also gain new information and knowledge about research and learning conducted abroad and develop more universal research topic. In its implementation, innovation and collaboration certainly have obstacles and challenges. However, with the collaboration and potential of UNICMA's lectures, innovation and collaboration are turned into opportunities to improve the quality of learning within UNICMA. Leadership commitment is certainly important to motivate the entire UNICMA academic community to continue to progress and develop. Innovation and collaboration are very important in facing a dynamic world change from various aspects. The work of education must train its graduates to think ahead 10, 20, 30 years in the future, not only now. Learning innovation and flexible curricula in predicting future market needs are the keys to improving the quality of graduate. Conclusion. Based on the information presented, learning innovation is important in improving the quality of learning and graduate. Innovation needs to be related to change in the world in various aspects of life. This change has an impact on the process of human interaction directly. Innovation in technology, especially learning technology, have helped the world of education adapt to change during the COVID-19 pandemic. And UNIPMA innovation in the field of learning have helped the learning process and maintain the quality of graduate. The technological literacy of lecturers and students has increased compared to before the COVID-19 pandemic. Collaboration in the field of learning and research and service builds a collaborative academic atmosphere. Students get a new atmosphere in learning which can potentially increase their future adaptation. Lecturers develop ideas and collaborative research topics with various complex and dynamic problem finding. Innovation and collaboration are very important to be developed in universities to respond to opportunities due to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Supri Wahyudiptomo. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a question. Now, there is one from Bululus. Here is the question. Wait. Dear Dr. Supri, based on your experience, would you explain more to us what are the challenges in implementing PBL and PJBL during pandemic? Let me repeat, Dr. Supri. Based on your experience, would you explain more to us what are the challenges in implementing PBL and PJBL during pandemic COVID-19? Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Sigit. UNIPMA dalam menjalankan model-model pembelajaran tadi tentunya pasti ada tantangan atau kendala. Banyak kendala yang kita temui karena selama ini memang dalam proses pembelajaran yang dilakukan oleh para dosen itu masih lebih banyak menggunakan model pembelajaran yang konvensional dengan ceramah yang begitu dominan. Tentunya bahwa model ini sudah tidak lagi relevan untuk digunakan, mengingat bahwa mahasiswa atau lulusan itu harus banyak dibekali dengan berbagai keterampilan, khususnya kalau kita perhatikan dalam pembelajaran abad 21 ini minimal ada 4 keterampilan yang harus dikuasai oleh mahasiswa. Antara lain yaitu kemampuan dalam berpikir kritis atau menyelesaikan masalah, kemudian kolaboratif, inovasi, dan komunikasi. Tentunya ini tidak bisa lagi dilakukan dengan model-model pembelajaran konvensional. Dosen dituntut untuk mengubah pola pembelajaran ini dari pembelajaran konvensional dengan menggunakan model-model pembelajaran inovatif, antara lain yaitu PBL, PJBL. Nah, tentunya untuk ini perlu diberi pemahaman dan juga pelatihan-pelatihan. Beberapa waktu yang lalu kita juga melalui program PKKM kita mengundang tenaga ahli untuk melatih ya dalam membuat RPS atau rencana pembelajaran yang berbasis PJBL dan case method. Nah, ini yang sudah kita lakukan. Nah, ini membangun atmosfer perubahan ini tentunya pasti banyak hambatan ya, karena tidak semua dosen itu langsung bisa beradaptasi ya. Ini secara bertahap, secara perlahan UNIPMA terus meningkatkan kompetensi dosen dengan berbagai model-model pembelajaran. Itu pasti.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in brief, among the challenges is still there are a number of lecturers who prefer to use conventional ways of delivering teaching instead of using the currently preferred delivery of teaching. That's among the challenges encountered by UNIPMA under Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, UNIPMA has been doing a lot, highly committed to the two keywords, that's innovation and collaboration. Innovation and collaboration. National collaboration as well as international collaboration. Combining both innovation and collaboration, national and international, will benefit both UNIPMA and the world at large. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please. If no, I think it's time for me to come the summary. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the presentation by the fourth keynote speaker by Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo, the rector of Universitas PGRI Madiun here in Madiun, Indonesia. He has imparting his commitment as well as first-hand experience in managing UNIPMA in terms of innovation as well as collaboration, national as well as international. Thank you, Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we come to an end, before I am passing this to MC, I would like you to turn on your camera, everybody. Please turn on your camera. The committee will take pictures.
Thank you, Mr. Sigit.
Most welcome, Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo. It's an excellent presentation in international platform. The committee, you ready to take pictures? The committee, ladies and gentlemen, please turn on your camera. Is the committee ready to take pictures? How many pages are there?
I already informed them, sir.
Okay, check. How many pages are there?
5 pages, sir.
5 pages. Okay, good. So let's start with the first page, page number 1. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Done? Already? Good. Now we move to page number 2. So get ready, everyone. 3, 2, 1. That's page number 2. Now let's switch to page number 3. 3, 2, 1. Page number 4. 3, 2, 1. Last page. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the presentation by the 4 outstanding, remarkable keynote speakers. Therefore, let's extend our gratitude, heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Park Jun-hyung, first keynote speaker from National Institute of Education, NTU Singapore. Dr. Ha Huang, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Dr. Ahmed Lasman Latif, Putra Business School, Malaysia. And last of all, our gratitude goes to Dr. Supri Wahyudi Utomo, the rector, the president of Universitas PGRI Madiun. For me, that's all. Thank you. I would like to give this floor back to MC. Dr. Vita Pinandita, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sigit Richahyono, MPD, for moderating the keynote speakers. For all keynote speakers, thank you so much for your insightful presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I close this session, on behalf of the committee, allow me to convey some information. After closing, please be prepared for invited speakers presentation at 13:30. There will be 3 invited speakers in 3 rooms. The invited speakers of room 1 will be Dr. Angelica O. Cortez, and then room 2 will be Dr. Sudarmiani MPD, and room 3 will be Dr. Nizar Alam Hamdani. And for each participant, please attend and participate in one of the invited speakers' room. And I would like to also inform you regarding the presentation guidelines for tomorrow. For all presenter, please rename the Zoom by mentioning room code and then underscore serial number of presenter, underscore name of the presenter. And then during joining the VCon, you must keep the camera on and the microphone must be muted, except for those who will ask questions or respond after being welcomed by the moderator. And then you must prepare the presentation 10 minutes before you start, and please pay attention on the duration of the presentation provided by the committee. And then the last one, your participation can only be verified if you participate event fully for 2 days, starting from today, 26th of October 2022, until tomorrow, 27th of October 2022. Well, distinguished guests, delegates, presenters, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we do hope you will enjoy your stay. We wish you an enjoyable and fruitful conference. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, now you may take a break for a while and please be ready at 13:30 for the invited speaker presentation. Thank you so much. We hope it will be very beneficial for us. See you at 13:30. Goodbye.